Imagine this, a seasoned pilot who has already executed not one, not two, but 6 heart-stopping go-arounds at 2 different airports is now in a dire situation. He has just declared mayday due to critically low fuel levels, and this 7th approach is his last chance to land with the remaining fuel on board. To make matters worse, visibility is rapidly deteriorating and the lives of 155 passengers are hanging in the balance. When asked by the co-pilot if he has spotted the runway, the pilot replies, "Going blindly." This gripping tale was so intense that it even inspired a Bollywood movie. So can he pull off this life-or-death landing? How did he find himself in this nerve-wracking scenario? We welcome you to our channel for an incredibly intense journey, and this is the story of Jet Airways Flight 555. In the dead of night, this Jet Airways flight took off from Doha, Qatar, bound for Cochin, India. Everything seemed routine until they approached Cochin International Airport, their intended destination. The weather took a nasty turn, shrouding the runway in thick fog and low visibility. As the Jet Airways flight neared Cochin International Airport, the skilled pilots were granted clearance to land on runway 27 using an ILS approach. This technology enabled them to descend until they were just 200 feet above the ground, a crucial aid in challenging weather conditions. Initially, the visibility was reported at 3,500 meters, with some clouds at 1,500 feet. However, as they approached the runway, they encountered a stark reality. The weather had taken a turn for the worse. At a mere 320 feet above the ground, the crew found themselves in a disorienting soup of fog and low visibility. With the runway and its guiding lights nowhere in sight, they were left with no choice but to execute a go-around. This was the first of several go-arounds they would experience that day. Despite facing difficulties on their initial approach, the crew decided to try a second ILS approach at Cochin. However, this attempt also didn't go as planned, leading to a second go-around. Now you see, up to this point, the decisions made by the pilot were well within the realm of standard aviation procedures. Go-arounds, while tense, are a recognized part of the safety protocol. However, the pivotal moment arrived when the pilot was faced with a critical choice, one that would later haunt him. The pilot had 2 clear options. Option A, divert to Bangalore, located 200 nautical miles away, with better weather conditions and the availability of an ILS approach. Option B, divert to Trivandrum, a closer airport at just 100 nautical miles, with no ILS approach, but which would allow for a third approach in Cochin. Inexplicably, the pilot opted for the second choice. The decision, made under immense pressure, would prove to be a fateful one, leading to a series of events that would put both the aircraft and its occupants in grave jeopardy. Despite warnings from air traffic control about thickening clouds, the crew persevered with their third approach, which, like the previous attempts, was unsuccessful. After 3 unsuccessful attempts at landing in Cochin, the aircraft was left with a mere 2,600 hours of fuel, insufficient to reach Bangalore, which obviously would have been a better option instead. The crew decided to divert to Trivandrum. However, the weather at Trivandrum wasn't favorable either. Astonishingly, this crucial information was never relayed to Flight 555 by Cochin's Air Traffic Control, ATC. When the crew finally contacted Trivandrum, they received the disheartening news that visibility was just 1,500 meters. Talk about having a bad day, right? Mr. Murphy would be proud of his theory. Making matters more challenging, the ILS approach, which had been a lifeline in the previous attempts, was unavailable. Consequently, the crew was forced to perform their 4th go-around. The aircraft was now left with less than 1,324 kilos of fuel on board. This amount is the fuel reserve equivalent to just 30 minutes of flight, which is meant to take them to the nearest airport. The crew then declared a mayday and requested a visual approach to runway 14. The decision to opt for a visual approach was puzzling because, as the name implies, it relies on the pilot having direct visual contact with the runway or its environment, which was lacking in this situation. Undeterred, the Boeing 737 lined up for the visual approach using only navigation displays, which was a risky choice given the poor visibility. Regrettably, this effort also failed, leading to the crew's fifth go-around. Their fuel reserves were running dangerously low, and the pressure was mounting. Despite the odds, they attempted a very similar approach once more, but it was not successful, resulting in the aircraft's sixth go-around. At this point, the pilot made a critical decision to approach runway 32 on a different side of the airport. As they descended, the aircraft flew perilously low, just 700 feet above the ground. The ground proximity warning system urgently sounded alarms. However, due to their critically low fuel levels, the crew couldn't heed these warnings. The captain, in a heart-pounding move, decided to go for a blind landing, disregarding all warnings and lacking visual contact with the runway, as the severe weather conditions prevented them from seeing it, as later revealed by the investigation. By the time the aircraft finally touched down safely, they were left with a mere 349 kilograms of fuel. Officials noted that had the pilots attempted another go-around, they would have faced a catastrophic crash due to their dangerously low fuel levels. So that's all about today's story. A series of ill-fated choices, a stroke of luck, and a skillful landing against the odds. A powerful lesson in aviation safety. Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more gripping stories.